Hey, what's up everybody? It's Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to MX Simulator, where today we're going to review the 2021 Thunder Valley National in real life while we play the 2021 Thunder Valley National in MX Simulator. And doing a little bit of face cam action today because I'm doing more face cam action on Twitch lately, and also doing a controller overlay so you guys can see my inputs. So let's jump in and hang out on this track a little bit, talk about the action over the weekend. Thunder Valley, though, the track in Sim this year, pretty much the exact same that the track has been in Sim for the last decade. The track really hasn't changed too much, and this version of the track is also actually built off the 2020 version of the Thunder Valley track IRL. So the back section, which was changed up in real life for the 2021 National, is a little bit different when it comes down that hill and the left-hand sweeper off the big uphill triple. That's entirely different than what you saw over the weekend. It's reverted back to the 2020 version, so apologies that it's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's pretty similar to the old Thunder Valley tracks that we've known and loved over the years. But yeah, this track, it's one of those tracks that I've always actually quite enjoyed the track. I don't necessarily love this build of it by Race Factory for some reason. I don't know if there's just traction or the bumps are just too close together, or maybe my setup is just boofed, but I'm having a really tough time putting some good clean laps together on this track, so we'll see how we manage here today. But overall, I've always actually really liked this track in real life, how it's raced and everything like that, just because it's got elevation, it's got all the things I love about motocross tracks. It does have maybe a couple jumps that probably are a little bit I wouldn't say big, but probably unnecessary to make the track really stand out. But I think that's okay, because I think the fans do enjoy those big jumps and they sit closer to them and stuff like that. So to mix it together with the elevation, the off cambers, all that, I just think it's a great racetrack. And over the weekend IRL, I think it was maybe one of the best Thunder Valley racetracks that we've seen for a while in terms of prep. They we're initially going to rip it deep and then water it and do all the normal stuff that they do at every other round. But I guess there was a big windstorm that blew through over the night, so it made the track a lot, I guess, just drier by the morning. And when they went to rip it deep and want to do all the watering and stuff like that, it was kind of already at this weird zone where they couldn't. So they didn't rip it deeper, or they didn't do anything like that. Oh, bring that back. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I figured I wasn't going to land that. So I thought the track raced amazingly well because of it. It dried out by the morning sessions, and the lines didn't get overwhelmingly deep either, which I don't love about modern motocross tracks on the AMA circuit. On the GP side, because they race all weekend long, they really let the track kind of develop a character. You know, they do rip it, but it's definitely not as deep. I wouldn't say they feel like they go almost like a foot deep with the grader in the Nationals, but in the GPs they don't do that. What is my computer doing? I don't know why it's been doing that lately with these glitches. Anyway, I digress about that. Let's talk about the racing action from Saturday and everything that went with it. So first off, yeah, honestly, I have zero idea where this Ken Roczen came from. And it seems like Ken Roczen has zero idea where this Ken Roczen came from, because coming into the season, he was very adamant about his kind of confusion about motocross, I guess. Wasn't really back in a spot that he felt comfortable yet, and felt like he was going to need to build up and all this stuff like that. But it seems like he's just kind of found the magic pretty quickly here, and it's all worked, because he has been insane. So 3 out of the 4 first moto of the year go to him. He wins both motos at Thunder Valley, goes 1-1, and he may not have won the first moto, but you know, Dylan Francis, his rear brake went, and so Francis had to ride a lot of that first moto towards the end without a rear brake, and that might be why Kenny caught him. But Kenny was light years better at the second half of that moto than almost any motocross race we've seen since his injury in 2017. And the physical ailments that came with that, it always seemed like health-wise, he just got fatigued towards the end of motos. And even when he was winning motos and winning races in 2019, when he was really kind of back on full song when it came to the outdoors, I just didn't feel like he really had the pace down the stretch. So if he got a big enough lead and was able to hold on, he would win the moto. But if Eli Tomac was coming, Eli Tomac was likely to get him. That didn't look like the case at all at Thunder Valley. He looked like he was better than everybody in the second half of both motos. Fitness-wise, I mean, I guess Ferrandis pretty much proved in the second moto that had he started with Kenny, it would have been close. But by that stage of the day, Ferrandis was way too far back, so Kenny like kind of milked it in a little bit, and it looked like he still had more. And I get it. It wasn't a very hot day. It was warm by Colorado standards, I feel like. It was like high 80s. I think it maybe dipped into the low 90s at one point. But the humidity was quite low, as it usually is in Colorado. And, of course, the altitude does affect fitness as well, but it wasn't one of those, like, you know, death-defying days that you see at, like, WW Ranch or Southwick or some of these other tracks where it just gets blazing hot, high humidity, there's just no break, no wind, it just sucks. So because of that, I'll still remain skeptical about my thoughts on Roczen, just because I need to see him win like a hot race, and overall at a hot race, not just a moto, to be like, this guy's going to win the championship. But I definitely feel way different about pretty much all of my thoughts regarding this championship now that 2 rounds are behind us. And I don't feel like I felt like this after round 1. I felt like Fox Raceway could have been, you know, just such like a crapshoot, and we really didn't know what to expect. And, you know, you could see Osborne and Eli Tomac and Marvin and maybe Cooper and all those guys turn it around at round 2. None of them did. In fact, pretty much all of them had arguably worse days at round 2, just because they all got progressively worse. I felt like at Fox Raceway, like, yes, Tomac and Webb and Osborne and Musquin and all those guys had a bad moto and had pace that was well off or things like that, but you saw like at least like a glimmer here and there where the speed was there. It just was a start, or, you know, they're just building up to a pace that needs to be, you know, race winning pace or whatever. None of that at Thunder Valley for any of those guys. A little bit for Osborne. First moto, he ran 4th for a long time, then crashed, and then fell back to 11th or 12th or something like that. And he was running a solid pace in that 4th, but then he crashed. And he's been dealing with this back injury, and you don't know whether or not the back injury was a part of that. But then it flared up in the second moto. Doesn't finish the second moto. And I would be a little bit surprised to see Osborne return for the rest of the series. But we'll see. He's pretty much out of it at this point, though. He's over 40-something odd points down, I think, at this point already. Maybe even over 50 points down. So it's a long, long ways for him to go. But I am probably the most, like, just in shock that Eli Tomac has had arguably the 2 roughest nationals of his career back-to-back. And I get that, you know, you can look at Loretta Lynn's last year and be like, I mean, that was obviously a rougher day, but Eli Tomac actually rode well at Loretta Lynn's. It's just that his bike expired twice. He hasn't ridden well in any moto this year, really, I feel like. And Thunder Valley exacerbated a lot of issues that I feel like people are seeing with Tomac, where it's, you know, just doesn't seem like he has kind of the fire. The speed is obviously there. He was up there again in qualifying. He's good at this track usually in Colorado. It's not very close, but it's closer to where he lives than most national tracks. So he should be pretty used to the dirt, the soil, the elevation. He's won here before. Like, it just seems like it was all going to flow his way to have a day where you look at Eli Tomac and go, yep, he's going to be right back in the thick of this championship. Now he has left this second round already at, I think, a 44 or 46 point deficit in the championship, which is even larger than he had last year after leaving Loretta's with 2 DNFs. So I don't know, like, if you're Eli Tomac at this point, I feel like there's just a lot of head scratching going on. I honestly kind of feel for Eli Tomac fans to a degree, because this is not the same Eli Tomac we've ever really seen, I feel like. And I'm not like overly concerned that we're never ever going to see Eli Tomac like run up front and contend again. Like, he's obviously probably just going through a bad stretch right now. But it is a bummer, because it seems like he has already kind of put himself in a spot where he could not come back to win this championship. How did I just land that? Oh my God. So I don't know, like, is Kenny going to win this championship? Is Dylan Ferrandis going to win this championship? Could Aaron Plessinger win this championship? Maybe any one of those guys. You know, Ferrandis, Plessinger, they're 250 champions, so they know how to get it done. Kenny's won the outdoor title on a 450 twice. They know how to get it done. Like, I feel like some people are probably looking at that group and going like, well, nobody thought they were going to win. So seriously, you know, something's going to happen in the second half of the season, and they're all going to, you know, flip upside down and things are going to go crazy. But I don't know. I don't like after round 1, I was like, yeah, okay, you sure. But to back it up in back-to-back rounds where Kenny, Ferrandis, Plessinger, Barsha, Sexton, and now AC got kind of getting into the mix again after his crash at Fox Raceway, like, I think you could make a case for all 6 of those guys why they should and probably will be the champions this year because of how bad the first 4 motos have gone for the guys that a lot of people thought might win it instead. So it's kind of like this weird flipped upside down world that we're in the 450 class where a lot of people that flew under the radar are suddenly going to be maybe our title contenders. And I hate to like look at it this way, but I almost kind of wonder if we see a little bit of like a, like kind of rub the elbow kind of situation with Tomac or I would totally understand it with Osborne, but just some of those guys to be like, man, I'm already so far down in the championship. Is it kind of worth it to keep, fighting for it? Especially if we're going to a different team next year like you are with Tomac. And I don't necessarily think that's 100% going to happen, but I'm also saying it's not out of the realm of possibilities. We've seen it before where, motocross is different than supercross, I feel like, where the prestige of winning the motocross, a motocross race, like if Eli Tomac picks it up and he starts, getting on a roll, but he's nowhere near the title hunt and he wins like 2 of the last 3 outdoors of the year, I don't know how many people care. I care because I love the sport and I personally enjoy watching motocross more than supercross from a technical aspect. But I think that like fans-wise, sponsor-wise, a lot of the focus is so, attenuated onto supercross that you want to have those guys out there even if it's not close, even if they're, well out of the championship hunt, because something still could happen. You could still have a championship winning race down the stretch or something like that. So I feel like outdoors, it's more often than not that we see guys just kind of pull out of the series. And I hope that's not the case because I would like to see Tomac and Musquin and Webb and these guys go on a roll and make things interesting for the, at the moment, championship contenders of Roczen, Ferrandis, Plessinger, Sexton, AC, and those guys, because you need that kind of like wrench thrown in the plans up front a little bit. And if Roczen's fitness flares up, you don't want it to just be like Ferrandis is walking away with this or whatever. And, I do still hold the caveat to a degree that there's totally a chance that, Webb and maybe even Tomac and maybe even Musquin go out next time we're out there at High Point and win, and suddenly you're kind of like, okay, maybe they're not out of this yet. They're almost 40 points down, but maybe this win at High Point resets the game a little bit. Now they're only, 4 points down. We got 9 rounds left in the championship. Who knows? But at the moment right now, to back up what happened at Fox Raceway with kind of a very similar day in terms of results, kind of dumbfounded. Like, this championship seems a little bit more flipped upside down than I expected it to be, because I would have thought at least one of those guys would have done something a little bit extra. Whether it was Osborne. Like, if Osborne went 4-4, for example, at Thunder Valley, like, he was running 4th in the first moto. Of course, the back issue flared up, but if he finished 4th, then got another good start in the second moto, ran up there and just kind of, easy, so-ish kind of day, I'd have been like, all right, like, he's building back into a comfort level with himself, knowing what he can and can't do in terms of pushing his limits with his back, and he's not lost a massive amount of points. He'll have a 13th, a 5th, and a couple 4ths. So the 13th looks bad, but the other results have kept him right in the thick of it. Now with the DNF, who knows? So it's like, I don't know how to read this 450 class just yet, but I feel like I read it a lot closer to the teeth when it comes to results after 2 rounds of the same instead of just one-off thing at Fox Raceway. So I feel like High Point is kind of this weird race where it's going to tell us a ton about the rest of the championship, because it's kind of your first, like, everybody's, dialed in their settings. They've had a little couple week break because now we have a weekend off. We're back out east where a lot of the races will be. Maybe the weather's a little bit hotter, and suddenly you have like your first real true test of a national race of the season to see, is this the Roczen we're going to see all summer? Is this the Ferrandis we're going to see all summer? Are any of these guys going to get hurt because they're in this pressure situation that they've never been in? Roczen's the only guy in the top, 6 in the points right now that has ever won the 450 national championship. Top 7? that has ever won a 450 national championship, I should say, not the, because, you know, if you look at Webb, yes, he's won a Supercross title, and then obviously Tomac, and you talk about Osborne being in there, but he's not anymore, so this is weird. I'm definitely confused and excited at the same time to see where this goes, because it's a very different outdoor championship than I expected going into the first couple of rounds. So like where it's at, and would like to continue watching it get chaotic, if you will. Onto the 250 class, though, and the flip side of the 450 class being as wide open and chaotic and confusing as it is, I feel like the 250 class has been a lot more straightforward. And now it's very straightforward, because I think a lot of people were assuming it was going to be J. Coop, J. Mart, J. Law, Jet Lawrence, in some shape or form battling for the championship, and that is really what we had through the first 3 motos of the year. But now J. Mart crashed, and his scaphoid injury seems to have flared up even more, and he's already put himself at a bit of a deficit here. I think after the first moto, he would have been up on Jet by 7 points, and then lost 25 in the second moto. So I think he's like 18 points down now or something like that. So if he can come back healthy at High Point, then yes, of course, he's still in the championship hunt. But I don't know. It's one of those situations where, like, if the scaphoid's really broken, and if they say, like, it's going to be a risk to go out there and try it, I don't know if it's really a good idea for J-Mart to go. But the flip side of that is that J-Mart is apparently still looking for a 450 ride. And if he really wants it, he's going to have to kind of prove that he's not going to, you know, that he's not like this injury-prone guy suddenly, which he's kind of turned into, unfortunately. Like, he's been more injured than not the last 4 or 5 years at this point, which is a bit of a bummer. But yeah, so the crash second moto pulls him out. Jet goes 4-1. Cooper goes 2-2. Obviously, J-Mart won the first moto, so that was what happened there. And then Hunter Lawrence, I think, went, 5-3 for third. And honestly speaking, I think that might be the top 3 in this championship moving forward. I think Hunter is building up to a level that is going to become race-winning speed before long. And he'll be able to challenge his brother and Justin Cooper out there. And I think Justin Cooper is going to do a lot of Justin Cooper things from here on out, now that he's got a couple podiums right off the bat, including a race win, overall win, whatever you want to call it. I think that he's going to go on this string of, like, podium, and the burden more lies on the shoulders of Lawrence, Jet that is, to not make the big mistake. You know, he'll win probably more motos straight up this year than Cooper if they're both going to remain healthy. But I feel like the problem with Jet has always been he is blazing fast and it bites him. And we saw that in Supercross quite a bit this year. He still came back and won races. He still contended for eventually second place in the championship, but didn't win or contend for the title down the stretch because he had kind of basically missed some rounds and went through some rounds with injuries. So he's got to stay off the ground. And I feel like if we get to Southwick, so round 5, 6-ish, you know, Redbud Southwick kind of thing, and he still is winning motos consistently, maybe gets a couple overall wins mixed in there, and you know, doesn't finish outside of the top 5 in any of the upcoming rounds, then I'm going to be like, it's on. Like, he is going to take this thing down to the stretch, and the only way he would not win the title at that point, I feel like, would be an injury or a crash. So we'll have to see. He's looked a lot smarter, I feel like, so far, the first 4 motos of the year. Maybe that, you know, Supercross, what he went through in Supercross, like, he kind of felt like he learned a little bit more about not being caught up in that mess at, you know, getting yourself injured and doing some dumb things like that. So he might just kind of settle back into a level that is comfortable with him in each moto, take home what he can get. Like, he took a 4th in the first moto. He didn't break his back to pass RJ and break his back to pass, you know, Cooper in second or anything like that. He just waited it out, realized he didn't have the pace, and settled in for 4th. And that's the kind of stuff that's going to win him championships. So I think you're looking at Lawrence brothers versus Cooper, with a, you know, smattering of other guys mixed in there on occasion. You know, Colt Nichols is building up to a good pace. He got 5th overall, I think it was. RJ Hampshire has been blazing fast, but he's also hit the ground a couple times now. And, you know, I'm sure there's going to be a couple other guys that get in there to win a moto or two. I feel like Joe Shimoda looked really strong as well. And he is building off of a lot of Supercross testing and training that he took down to the flag because he was trying to get second in that championship. So, again, like I said, I think it kind of is a lot more streamlined, a lot more understanding, a lot more expected, if you will, in the 250 class than the 450 class. But I still have my reservations that Jet Lawrence is going to go the distance and win this championship, and that Justin Cooper isn't going to, you know, step up to the next level to beat him. I think he's going to be more consistent than it will be speed-wise, and I think it's like this weird mix between these two right now. That was kind of the status quo for like a decade of what it came to winning championships. You always had Villopoto, the fastest guy, and Dungey, the consistent guy. Before that, you had Stu, the fastest guy, and Reed, the consistent guy. And you know, I guess maybe to a degree before that, you know, McGrath was the fastest and the most consistent, but on a lot of times he wasn't the fastest and just, you know, was smarter about it in racecraft and stuff like that. And I think that's where Cooper is trying to put himself. He's trying to put himself in a position where he is more or less like the Dungey or the Reed or I guess the kind of McGrath, where he gets his wins when he needs them and he you know, rides well and rides strong, but he'll be damned to find himself off the podium, and that's going to put him in a spot to try to win this championship by the season's end. So, yeah, I really don't have a favorite between either of those two because I feel like Jet's the speed guy, Cooper's the consistent guy. On their days, they're both going to win a ton of races, and if J Mart's out of this championship, it might be down to just the 2 or 3 if Hunter gets into the mix. So, yeah, unfortunately, that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles, though. I mean, I guess, you know, so many people have had some mixed results through the first couple rounds. Austin Faulkner getting tired and certain things like that. So, yeah, just generally speaking, I feel like this 250 class is already narrowed down to a couple guys, whereas the 450 class, pick somebody in the top 10, they'll go on a hot streak, and suddenly this championship is blown wide open again. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, that's my thoughts, opinions, recap, whatever you want to call it, of the 2021 Thunder Valley National in real life while I play the Thunder Valley track in MX Sim rather poorly. I'm not very good at this game anymore, but I still try to hit the tracks up and play them for you guys and show them off. And be sure to download this track, of course, in the description below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and had a good time hanging out and chit-chatting. As always, get down in the comment section below. I'd be happy to bench race with you guys, talk a little bit about some other things going on in the series that I didn't get to. But appreciate you guys stopping by and checking out another video here on Start Your Systems, as always. And look forward to seeing you in all of our future videos on the channels. So I'll send you guys on your way today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.